41% of the vote as a Democrat. And Schwartz gets 44% of the vote as the Republican. And the last 15% comes in on the working families line. The votes are tallied separately and then added together. She wins 56 to 44. People following this so far? So she wins, but she owes us, she owes you some portion of that victory. And if we're at all good at our jobs, we call her up the next day. Congratulations, Assemblymember-elect Lewis. By the way, we were serious about health care, housing, jobs, immigration, whatever the issues were that we advanced in that election moment. So that's the theory. This system that exists in New York and Connecticut and Delaware and South Carolina and in a different way in Oregon and Vermont goes by many names. Multi-party nomination, cross-endorsement, plural nomination. But the famous phrase, the historical phrase, is fusion. Two parties fusing on the same candidate, but with different meaning. In which the minor party makes it a coalition with the major party, but tries to imbue their vote with a little extra meaning. You think Chuck Schumer's a putz? Fine, so do we. Vote for him on our line. Let him know you think he's a putz, but don't waste your vote on the organic farmer from Binghamton who's going to get 19,000 votes and it'll be like he never existed. I mean, you're in this for real. You wouldn't be in this room if you didn't actually think building and wielding power was worth doing, right? If you were just political hobbyists, you wouldn't be members of YDS. So the trick here is building a way to change. We're not trying to end our relationship, in our case, with the Democratic Party. We're trying to make it better. We're trying to yank them, pull them, prod them, 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 20 degrees in a more progressive direction. Why? Because we know it's the right thing to do in terms of the policies we're after. And two, we think it's smart for them politically, right? We can prove to them, I think, election after election, that we can get people to vote on our line. So over the last 12 years, Working Families in New York, it's about 12, it's 12 years old now. We probably nominated about 5,000 candidates on our line over these 12 years. Mostly Democrats, occasionally Republicans. It's good to be able to show voters, independent voters. We're not with either major party. We look at the candidates, we figure out who's best for people, and we encourage a vote. Every now and then we'll run our own standalone candidate against it. The Democrats put up a real dog, which definitely happens. We'll sometimes run our own. This has made us, in a relatively short amount of time, and Bertha was the founding co-chair of the party, serious players in New York State politics, becoming such in Connecticut, getting off the ground in a few other states. What it does is it says to elected officials, right? These are the people who we're trying to hold accountable. If you don't do what we say, we could withdraw that support. If you're really bad, we can give the support to somebody else, or we can run our own. It is worthwhile spoiling every now and then, quote-unquote spoiling. We're thinking of doing that in a race this year. That's okay. Everybody gets the message. There's a place on Long Island called Hempstead, Long Island, where Acorn organized for many years. There was an election there, and the Democrats who controlled the county legislature decided they needed to cut the bus service. This is the poorest part of Nassau County, big suburban county. We need to balance the budget. What else you do? You go after the people with the least. That's what you do if you're a Democrat, right? You try not to be quite as mean as the Republicans. That's their slogan. We're not as mean as the Republicans, but we try. So they decide to cut the buses in the lowest income part of Nassau County. A member of the Working Families Party said, I'm going to run. I'm going to run and we're going to spoil. In other words, the Democrats would lose this seat to the Republicans. And at this point, the balance of power was 10 to 9, Democrat-Republican. You flip one seat on the county legislature, goes back to Republican control. The Democrats go nuts. First of all, I should say, the woman who said she would run didn't really want to run. She knew that we could just drive them crazy. But she was good at it. You know, we hold press conferences and so on. The Democratic county leader calls a meeting. He brings us in. He can't believe that we're actually willing to threaten, put at risk, the Democratic majority in this county of 1 million people. This is a big county. 1.2 million people live in Nassau County. And our people said, well, I mean, if you're going to govern like Republicans, why should we care? We might as well have a real Republican in office if you're going to do the same thing. So we're going back, and we're making it clear to them that all we really care, you don't say it when you're bargaining, but it was very clear to them, if they would do the right thing, our candidate would withdraw. It's not so brilliant, not so hard to figure out. Finally, the county leader of the Democrats throws up his arms and says, all you people care about is issues. We're looking at each other.
That's un-American.
Okay. And what he was waiting for was our request for a job. He was clearly waiting for a patronage request. 3 days later, they restored the bus cuts. We withdrew our candidate. Democrats were happy. We were happy. The bus riders, most importantly of all, they were happy. That was wielding power. Now, our ability to do that depended on having an organization. You cannot wield power without an organization if you hold our values. Period. End of story. You can try to influence the influentials. That's one strategy that many people on our side adopt. But if you really want power, you have to scare the influentials. And the thing they are most scared about, there are many different things you need to do. You need to have the outside game. You need an inside game. You need allies. We have champions in the New York State legislature. We have 1 or 2 members of Congress from New York who have some nerve. And we love them, and we need to support them. You can't, I didn't learn this when I was young. You can't expect accountability down if you don't have an organization to provide support up. You need to show them they're going to get something from you. YDS shows up with 10 people in a state assembly race and says, we're going to be here for 5 days. We will hit the doors, we'll phone back, we'll do whatever you want. They will never forget that. It's unbelievable how potent that kind of thing is. So that's what we're doing. It's been a very exciting ride for this last 10 or 12 years. The WFP has come under not quite acorn-style attack, but pretty fierce attack from our own enemies in the real estate industry and the restaurant industry. We're fighting for paid sick days. And what having an organized political party allows you to do is deal with these enormous, you're there for the long run. That's the problem with kind of intermittent organizing. You don't just want to, oh, it's election time, let's start again, right? You want to build something that will last. It's depressing to look at what's happening right now, either in New York or the nation. You think to yourself, did we win that election last year or did we lose it? And at the moment it feels like, the Onion, as usual, had it best after I'm sure most of you saw it, the Scott Brown victory in Massachusetts. Republicans cement 41 to 59 majority in the U.S. Senate. And that's how it feels. There is real downward pressure on people's living standards. It's been downward on many people forever, and it's now going to be, this is the life you are going to inherit. The world labor market has doubled in the last 15 years with the emergence of China and India and the full world labor market, the triumph of the free trade ideology means that people's lives are not going to get materially easier. So we need a new paradigm. You've got the climate crisis, you've got the unemployment crisis, you've got the Tea Party revolt, in the sense, to my way of thinking, is, yet another, I wouldn't call it the last gasp, it's yet another gasp of sort of kind of white anxiety about what's happening to themselves, to their livelihoods, the fear of the black planet that Bertha alluded to. The task for us as organizers is to figure out, right, there's some portion of those people we don't want, but there's some portion of them that are just so anxious and they're mad. And right now their anger is being channeled at the government, in part because the Democrats are not willing to channel it at Wall Street and the banks and the corporations. It's an easy thing to say. It's very hard to do. In New York, we're trying to think, can we boost up the idea of a bonus tax on the bank bonuses that people got? There's about $20 billion in bank bonuses in New York. A lot of different things one can do. My hope here is that people understand that there are no shortcuts to doing the work that we do, and I think many of you will do. It's the work of a lifetime. You got to trust the people, that if people had good information and some confidence and some time, they will actually make good decisions. The right view is that people are infinitely malleable and you can trick them and manipulate them. Kind of the conventional Democratic or liberal view is that they're kind of stupid. Our view is that they're decent but they're not organized. And we've got to organize them, whether it's in the workplace, in the community,